Right, guys, thank you very much for this interview. Basically, I'm just going to ask you questions about studying in the international department and the differences between Eastern and Western styles of education. Okay?
Okay.
So, starting with you, Daisy, can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Daisy from the 12th grade, and I study in GAC department for 2 years.
Okay, and you, Jeff?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having us today. And my name is Jeff, and I'm in the same grade with Daisy, and I'm also an international student in xi'an Tie High School.
Okay, right, so Jeff, I'm going to start with you. So, the one question I want to know, and many other people would be interested in, is are the requirements of what is expected from you as a student, are they different between foreign and Chinese teachers?
Yes, my answer is going to definitely be yes. There are lots of difference between the requirements for students. First of all, like in Chinese education system, they want students to be, to really have the ability to understand the basic knowledge for the exams. But in the American foreign education system, they want students to have creative thinking, communication skills, and working how to build up a teamwork. So I believe that's the difference they try to focus on.
Okay, how about you, Daisy? Do you have anything to say about this?
Yes, I also think there are some differences. First, for Chinese teachers, I think they focus on more about the scores. Once the students get high grades, they may be satisfied. And about the foreign teachers, I think they pay high attention on their social abilities and social skills instead of the scores. Like my foreign teachers, they always help us to do some research and help us to find the questions by ourselves. So I think that's way to improve our social practice ability.
Okay, so staying with you, Daisy, we've just spoke about the requirements that the teachers have, both foreign and Chinese teachers, what we expect from students. Now, are there any noticeable differences between the Chinese-style education system and the Western-style education system?
Yes, I think so. Well, I think the major difference is about the educational styles aimed are different. Well, for Chinese teachers or Chinese educational style, they focus on to build the basic structure or the basic foundation of the knowledge. And they may focus on students to having good grades on tests or tasks. But however, on Western culture, they may focus on creating raise the creativity with students. I think this is a difference.
Okay, how about you, Jeff? Would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with Daisy because in China, as long as the student gets a good grade, no teacher gonna say anything bad about him. But in America, they're more trying to focus on others. They try to build a student who is more well-rounded and versatile. At least I think so.
Okay, but even in the West, we do focus on kind of exam results as well. That is very important in the West. It's not just a Chinese or Korean or Japanese thing. That's all over the world, Test results are very important, but why do you think in China the teachers put so much of an emphasis on scoring really high in exams? Why is so much of an emphasis placed on it?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's at least got something to do with their salaries. They got students who have higher grade, they get more salaries, and they may get promotion. Which is good for their career, for teachers' career, and that's the first thing. And the very reason I believe Chinese teachers try to focus on the exam scores of their students. However, I believe there are some factors which is the school is trying to add some pressure to its students and teachers to try to let them make progress and contribution to the school.
Okay. So Daisy, who do you think has the more pressure? Do you think students have more pressure or the teachers have more pressure?
Well, as for me, I think that students may have more pressure than teachers. Many teachers will compete with each other. However, I think that students have a feeling that they have pressure about their parents, families, and teachers. So I think once they get bad grades, they may feel very disappointed.
Okay, now staying with you, I want to stay with you, Daisy. Was it easy for you to adjust to a Western style of education?
Well, I think it's not very easy, but through the 2 years learning, I have already adopted the Western study style. Well, at first I cannot do some practical things because I just finish all about my tests or something in the middle school. But in the GC task learning, I learned how to do the presentation about how to make a website. So this, I think, the creativity and practicability is important in Western education style. So through learning, I have adopted it gradually.
It's funny because when I first started teaching here, it happens at the beginning of every semester in the September when you get senior 1 students. You walk into the classroom and they're just sat there in silence staring at you, and it's as though it's as though they're waiting for you to just spill out and pour out all this knowledge, and they sit there in silence and write it all down. And at first it is quite difficult to get them to work together in groups, but they do pick it up quite easy because they're young enough, they can adapt, I will say.
Yeah.
But how about you, Jeff? Did you find it easy?
No, I'm gonna be honest, it took me a long time to actually get used to this education system. I still remember that when I was in senior 1, I actually failed one exam once because before I get into this education system, I was like the students you just talked about. I mean, shy and focus on the exam scores. But when I first stepped into this education system, it took a long time to learn how to cooperate with others in the team, how to write a summary, how to worry about my papers, how to hand in the paper before the deadline. So it's a lot of things I need to worry about. And when I was senior 1, I just an innocent, stupid boy who just got started. So it really took me a long time.
Okay, so looking at these 2 education systems, I mean, what do you think are the strengths? What do you think are the strengths of these 2 styles of education? So how about you, Jeff? What do you think the strengths are? And let's start with the Chinese style of education.
Yeah, in Chinese style education, I believe the strengths are Chinese. This specific education system really focused on the knowledge, the basic knowledge of students. So students who survived Chinese education system, people don't really have to doubt or worry about their basic knowledge and these learning abilities, because unlike other students from other education system, the Chinese students are more apt to and capable of doing calculations, maths, and physics, and I believe that's where the Chinese education system is good at. But in like foreign education system like America's, I believe they try to focus on the skills and really the social ability of each student. So students might be more well-rounded and versatile and more social than Chinese students.
Okay, how about you, Daisy?
I totally agree with Jeff, and I also think that every Chinese student who have the opportunity to enter the university will have elite background information before their enrollment. So I think that they have a strong background knowledge about all of the subjects before they go to the university. This is a strength about the Chinese educational system. And about the Western educational system, I think that students may be more creative, innovative, and more social, I think.
Social. So talking about being social as an individual, why do you think that's important? So Jeff, why would you say that's important?
Speaking of social life, when we actually step into the society, actually we don't have to worry about how to solve a math problem or a physics problem in our daily life, but we have to worry about how we have to pay attention to how we deal with the relationships about people around us. I mean, so the social life skills could really be something we learn and we can use in our daily life. So that's why I believe that this is the special skills that every student should have.
How about you, Daisy?
Well, I also think so, that students, maybe Chinese students, in the future, because they are not social enough, it's difficult for them to find a job, an appropriate job for them. Maybe they will use, in Chinese word, they will use the relationship net. So, but in America, it's totally different. So I think that socialization is a very important key for students to adopt in.
Okay, but I was reading a report online, and they interviewed a guy, some guy in America who runs quite a successful company, and he says he employs Chinese students, and he gave his reason why. He says they're extremely hardworking. He says they will work and they will do something until it's perfect, but he says the only problem is, he says it was as though he had to stay on top of them all the time, because a lot of them, when they were finished their work, they wouldn't think, right, what do I need to do next? I know what, I'll get started on this project. He says a lot of them wouldn't do that. It's as though they wait for guidance. You have to tell them what they have to do next. Would you say that that's a particular problem with Chinese students once they go into the workforce? You know, it's as though they need to be told what to do all the time rather than thinking for themselves?
Yes, I think this is a problem, because in the middle school and high school, the teachers always assign the homework or task for every student. They just need to finish all the homework, or they just need to follow the teacher's step. They do not worry about their own plans. So I think maybe in the workplace, this is the problem for them.
Okay, how about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I believe it is a common problem among Chinese students, because when they are at school, the teachers assign each task they need to do and each the deadline of each task. And so when they finally finish the task, they believe they finally get a time to take a breath. So they haven't developed the habit to make their own plans and their own study plans ever since they step into school. So I believe that's why they got this problem.
Okay, right, thank you very much. Now moving over to you, Daisy, what do you think are the weaknesses of these two education systems?
Well, I think for Chinese educational system, the Gaokao, you know, that is called the task-oriented test.
Yes.
So maybe all the students just focus on the results of the test. They just good at on the calculation of mathematics, the physics, and so on. So maybe in the workplace in the future, it's not very good for them to build the relationship with others or some other practical skills in the workplace. For the weakness in the Western educational system, I think it is that maybe all the students do not have a strong background of the knowledge. I think this is a weakness.
Right. Do you think that we perhaps don't put enough pressure on young people in the West? Because sometimes I think a little bit of pressure isn't a bad thing. It encourages them to kind of, to get involved and work hard and make, and push themselves. Sometimes I feel, though, in the Western education system, we don't put enough pressure on people. Would you agree with that or not?
Well, I disagree with that, because I think teachers and their parents just focus on their interest, what their interest is, and they may do lots of extracurricular activities after school.
Okay.
Yes, so they will enrich their time to do other things like volunteers or do something they want. However, the Chinese students always have a lot of pressure just doing some homework or tests.
Okay. How about you, Jeff? What do you think are the weaknesses of these two education systems?
Let's start with the bad aspects of Chinese education system. I believe that the Chinese education system wanted to make exams like a battlefield for students. So I believe that may add too much pressure on each students, and that might have a negative effect on students. But I'm not saying pressure is not good. I'm saying pressure sometimes is necessary. But Chinese education system is just too much pressure on students. And the weakness about foreign, like American education system, I can say they seems failed to add pressure to students. They did a lot of mistakes and weakness in motivating their students. For example, they seems they make exams and scores too important sometimes. So I think that's the weakness, because students can't take time to really master and memorize the knowledge they should have.
Or kind of the basic foundation.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff, staying with you, the last question. Do you recommend anyone who wishes to study overseas to join an academic preparation course like the PGA program, which you're studying on now?
Yeah, I totally agree with this. And I totally gonna recommend anyone who's gonna study overseas to take this program. And the reason is that when we actually step into a foreign university to study, there are lots of rules and forms of academic forms that Chinese students never used before. We never write an essay in proper form. The official form. And we never write an analysis before. So those are the skills that Chinese school they seems not likely to teach each student, and that's why I think students should take a certain academic program to help them to adapt all these formats and the styles of a foreign education system to help them when they get to university they could be familiar with the system, so they won't make mistakes.
Okay, how about you, Daisy?
I also strongly recommend every student want to study abroad can be prepared for this GAC course before they study abroad. Well, the reason is that I think this is a prepared course to let you be familiar with the American or Western university formats or something gradually. So I think this form is very necessary for students. Maybe some students go to study abroad cannot adopt in their environment immediately. So I think this is a good way.
Okay guys, that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you answering the questions. And that's it, we're finished. Thanks.
Thank you.
No problem.